So here's an example of what our system provides to our clients. So we have 3 different packages that we offer. And the first is a soil and water diagnosis package, which is exactly what it sounds like. We test the soil and water on a farm or garden or forest or any property, really, that has an impact on the land. And so the diagnosis package is to identify if any of the issues that would be of greatest concern regarding the environment are in line. And so this is in both soil and surface water. And I've talked a lot about some of the tests that we use measuring soil. Measuring the water, what we do is using the current New Zealand freshwater regulations as a guide. We determine the current farm water footprint. So at one moment in time, through a pretty sophisticated way, we can take a snapshot of exactly what the farm's impact on a waterway is and isolate it from the effects of their neighbors. So say you have a stream running through a farm, like most New Zealand farms do somewhere. Everyone's concerned with reducing their impacts on waterways. But it's impossible to tell if you're looking at a waterway, how much of that sediment or nitrogen or phosphorus or something that I can't see with my eyes, how much of that is coming from me and how much of it is coming from my neighbors upstream. And we've solved that, and we can tell you, exactly what your farm's impact on a waterway is at a given moment in time. So that's our diagnosis package. And up from there, we have packages that that are much more robust. And so really, like the diagnosis package is like a budget-minded look at how, what is there anything that we need to be concerned about in this agricultural operation? And if it comes back perfectly clean, then chances are that farm's doing just fine. But if an issue is identified, then we have 2 more robust packages that include everything anybody would want to know about their soil and water. And so we go through dozens of different tests and have them all done by the best, independent third-party labs in the world. And then we break down exactly what each different measurement means and explain it in a big comprehensive report. It's like a book. And all that information is super valuable, and there are a few things I like more than doing a deep dive into environmental sustainability. But for practical purposes, my company developed the Farm Environment Scorecard, which is shown here. And this is included with our most comprehensive package, where we measure everything I just described, and we also look at the farm economics, so we can help say, not simply you can save this much money by improving your fertilizer strategy, but we can then help put it into dollar figures to show farmers this is what this change could likely mean for you. And with all that information, all these dozens of different measurements are synthesized, all those together into a simple 0 to 10 score. Because this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the talk, that 22 years ago, I was in the organic section of my local grocery store and thinking, I wish there was a way for me to know which of these options was the most sustainable and had truly the lowest environmental impact. And so hopefully this system can build towards providing consumers, but it'll have to start with industry. But hopefully we can move to providing consumers with, at least an estimate of the sustainability of the product that they're buying. The more complicated and more ingredients something has, the more complicated this would be. But I think it would be pretty straightforward for single ingredient items, like say milk or meat or fresh vegetables, or something where farm traceability is already happening. You know what farm it's coming from. And if the farm is rated using this system, then it would be pretty straightforward to say, well, here's another selling point for buying this product because we've documented the environmental sustainability. And in this example, the synthesized environmental score for this farm is 6.1, which, not the best, not the worst. But what matters more, and this is something I developed while I was putting this whole system together over the years, is, so this hypothetical farm here scored a 6.1. But as I was calculating that this farm scored a 6.1, I was, going through each of the criteria, and I could see, oh, well, if they had just done this a little differently, if they'd done this best management practice, if they'd, if they used specific sustainable practices that are included in our metric, then the score would have been 7.5. And so this is really what, to me, is the most exciting thing about what we've got, is assuming the environment stays stable year to year, which it usually pretty much does. This hypothetical farm here would have scored a 7.5 if they had done certain practices that they weren't doing. And so we can say pretty confidently, hey, if you do all these practices, if you change your management to include these things, then next season you'll have a 7.5. And initially, I thought this ought to be a motivator for the farmer to to follow through on making changes based on the information that we provide to them. But it could be even more than that, because this information could drive consumer sales. If I was at the store and I had 10 options for buying tomatoes, there were 10 different kinds of fresh tomatoes, and half of them had these scores on them and half of them didn't, and I didn't really care which tomatoes I bought, then I could look at, well, which one is the most sustainable, and let that guide my decision, instead of which one has the flashiest packaging, or all of the other things that generally guide consumer choices. Yeah, sustainable agriculture is really what this is all about. And it's a term that's thrown around a lot. But it's a great term, because it's exactly what agriculture needs to be. Rather than you know, yeah, typically farmland across the world was once forest or grassland or some other type of native environment. And then it was converted into agriculture. And that usually involves environmental decline immediately. If you think about converting a forest somewhere into a farm field, it's a loss of habitat, it's a loss of big, stable plants, and it usually is a stage in environmental decline, and soils around the world are being lost. Roughly half of the world's soils are gone because of unsustainable management practices. It's a combination of the soils literally washing away with rains and being microbially and physically broken down and released to the atmosphere as greenhouse gas emissions. And it doesn't have to be unsustainable. Yeah, how do we measure environmental sustainability? There are lots of specifics that we use, but some of what we look at are steps related to eliminating fertilizer runoff and leaching, soil carbon content, and holistic plant nutrition. So all the nutrient needs of plants being met is really a key question in any farm or garden, because if one important nutrient is missing, it can have knock-on effects that are detrimental to the environment. Please consider having AgRestore put hard numbers on the sustainability of your land, and work with us moving forward to document the ongoing environmental progress you're responsible for. And I'm happy to answer any and all questions.
Thank you.